I feel blessed. I'm way up, I feel blessed.
Hey, what's up? How's it going, everybody? Got some sweet follows. Recently, since I sent this out, a whole bunch of awesome stuff came in. We got Mooch hanging out, Bananas down on the monkey cam. It's a great day. It's a Friday. It's beautiful. It's the last beautiful day here in Seattle, which is pretty exciting. It's about to get really cold, really rainy. Hello to Helge over in Germany. How's it going? Thanks to people checking into my coffee sitch. Do not worry. It is all happening. Lots of coffee, always happening. I just brewed a fresh Chemex. How's it going, R2? How's it going? How is it going? Norway. Norway in the house. Denmark in the house. All beautiful countries. I've been to all three of those countries. Absolutely delightful. I've not been to Australia, though I did just get an Alaska email about maybe cheaper flights away. Oh, another Norwegian. Hello, Honker. Welcome to the stream. New Zealand in the house. I've not been to New Zealand, though. That is sad. One day. It's on our list. I was just in Bali, so I was all up in regions over there. So that's good. So there we go. Vancouver in the house. Only 3 hours away. Oh, my goodness. Chile in the house. I've been to Chile, too. Phenomenal. Here's the problem, Alicio. As an Italian, I still have not been to Italy, and this is a shame. This is terrible. This is something that should not happen. Idaho. I've been to Idaho. I've been to Boise. Absolutely delightful state. Not too far away. Boise is a beautiful, beautiful city. So welcome to the chat. A lot of people. I'm just gonna start doing this. Where are you from, chat? And then everyone's gonna chime in. So pretty exciting today. Lots of new followers. We're really close to 500. I think about 480 right now. Let me give some big shout outs. TR coming in. Guinez, Pontab, Raz Music, Stein, Flow, MSG, Packet. That's fun. It's funny. All coming in with some sweet follows. I appreciate that. A few weeks ago, we had some sweet subs, getting a whole bunch of sweet emoticons, and of course, donating to charity. So yeah, this week a little bit different. Oh, see, when you call out people, those follows come in. Circa, thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. Now, a lot of people know I stream usually on Fridays. This is my Friday stream. I also stream on Saturdays. Signal our Saturday is still going strong, which is super awesome. And I decided, I've been working on Xamarin.Forms a lot, doing lots of PRs. But I was at VS Live in Orlando, which is Visual Studio Live, this last week. And I've been getting a lot of requests for sometimes doing presentations, not at conferences. So I did a really sneak surprise session called The Future of Visual Studio and .NET, where I covered all the amazing things that happen to Connect in about an hour and 15 minutes instead of multiple hours upon hours. Worked with some teams to get some sweet demos, and I said, why not just do it for everyone on the Twitch stream? So hopefully you're retweeting some tweets, getting more people on here. I really appreciate that. And hopefully we get some more people. We're up to like 33 something right now, which is pretty rad. Micro, who just followed me? Oh, we got some subs. Magil, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. We got a resub coming in from Alicio, 2 months. I don't actually know if that comes up in my thingy. I need to look at my resub. I haven't. Oh, there it is.
Nothing is impossible.
Thank you for the sub. Let's throw some mooches out there into the chat room. There we go. Cool. Pretty awesome. All right, cool. So today, what we're going to be doing is first and foremost, before I get into all of this, we're going to be pouring some coffee. It's a tradition on my Friday streams, and then we're going to get into some code. And yeah,
nothing is impossible.
Don't ever forget that. Nothing is impossible. So let's pour it here. Let's get into it. Our coffee today is my Olympia coffee in Ethiopia. It's the last of it. So next stream tomorrow morning we'll have some new brew. Now, as always, chess.com mug. Chess.com unofficial sponsor, and by unofficial I mean not a sponsor at all. Panera coffee. I've had lots of Panera coffee at conferences and dev days, so it's pretty good. All right, so here we go. Tradition, pouring it in for the first cup of the stream. Whoa, I can never see how much is in there, so I pour it. All right, so that coffee will stay nice and toasty. You can do bang or exclamation point coffee. See what's up in the coffee game. A whole bunch of stuff. This is, of course, in my Zojirushi. Always keeps it nice and toasty, nice and warm for hours upon hours. So let's take a sip. Delicious. Coffee all day. Yes, this is my fourth cup of the day or so. Okay, so we're going to be doing something different. Today I'm going to be doing a real, actual thing, like a whole presentation, but more interactive. This is cool. I have my machine, my work machine hooked up, and it's going to be kind of running it. So hopefully we'll see no lag today, which is cool because usually I have the same computer streaming as coding. But I have it all set up, ready to roll. And we're going to be covering today all of Visual Studio 2019 Preview 1. That's 2, but 1. Mooch is really excited about it. There she is. She's over there. We're going to be covering what's new in Xamarin.Forms. We're going to cover what's new in .NET Core 3. And we're going to cover, a bunch of other stuff that I have in this deck. But this is a presentation, so I'm not really going to present, but go through some slides, go through some code. Go through a few slides, go through the code. So I'm going to kind of walk through it. Ooh, I'm going to do all new C# 8 features. Phenomenal. So we'll get to go through that too. So feel free in the chat. I'm monitoring it the entire time, so we can actually do some stuff, which is cool. So we can get in here and go through it. So let me hop over, set up a separate machine over here. Boop. Cool. All right. Still got the chat. Still got the subs. Helge coming in for the follow. I appreciate that. All right. So if you're just joining randomly from another stream, just randomly or saw this come up and you're like, I want to see that. I'm James Montemagno. I stream every Friday here on the Twitch, and I'm a program manager over at Microsoft. I work on all sorts of mobile dev tools for Xamarin and cross-platform SDKs and a whole bunch of stuff. So the future or the present, because you can get this stuff today. In fact, none of this stuff is super hidden or anything like that, and you can go and get it, make you feel real comfortable about anything you want to do. You can just go install these previews just like I did and run them side by side, which is pretty cool, your current stuff. So we're gonna be talking first and foremost about Visual Studio 2019. Now, Visual Studio 2019 available both in Visual Studio for Mac and Visual Studio on Windows, so Mac and PC. I'm going to be demoing everything on my PC here because that's what I have set up, but a lot of the features, not all of them, are between the two, but I'm going to show everything that's here inside of the Windows world. And I'll talk a little bit about Mac and some cool things that we're doing there too. So I figure I first kind of go through some of the brand new stuff. The major themes of 2019 are kind of a brand new experience to get to your code faster. You're going to notice this on both IDEs, getting to your projects faster, and also cloning, getting into stuff. And Keith asked in the chat, is the Mac the same code base? No, they're each written. Well, there's some commonalities between the two. However, a lot of Visual Studio for Mac is native user interface, and same thing on Windows. There's starting to be a lot of convergence in code, so a lot of the core workloads are made cross-platform, but it's not like a one-to-one, right? Yeah, there's a lot of Cocoa in there, some GTK Sharp here and there, but mostly Cocoa. Yeah. A brand new theme. I'm very excited about it. I'll walk through a lot of the IDE. I think it's really, really nice. On the left, Visual Studio 2019, 2017 on the right. And this is the biggest change that you're going to see, which is the Chrome between the two. So on top, 2017, on the bottom, 2019. I'm actually starting to really enjoy just the look and feel, and more code is what you get to see. And that's a big theme of pushing Visual Studio out of your way and letting you just get to your work. And there's all sorts of new editor improvements, quick actions, refactorings, all sorts of craziness that I'm going to walk through. So lots of code lens, lots of new quick edit actions, refactorings, and I have a bunch of cool samples I'll walk through to show off all of this awesomeness. So why don't we just do that? Why don't we hop over onto the desktop? I don't want to be in slides too much, but again, this is like my presentation, right? So it's there. Now, the first thing I want to show off is that I actually have 3 versions of Visual Studio installed. 2017 preview, and then 2019, and then VS Code's there too. Because you can run this side by side your existing Visual Studio 2019, or 2017, I mean. So when you launch it for the first time, you get into code really fast. This is the whole concept here. So you can see all of your recent projects, and you can easily clone or check out code from anywhere. Just need to git, check out. Open projects, open folders. That's kind of nice. And then also creating new projects. Now, the create new project dialog is definitely, they're looking for a lot of feedback there. But you can kind of go through and do different languages. So Tal asks about Visual Basics right here. You can go and get your VB going on. I do a lot of C#, so that's what I'm going to be talking about mostly. But you can filter these. So if you just want, I'm looking for Android, I type in Android. There's all my Android stuff. So it's there. Yeah, open a folder. Let's go back here. So you can do open a folder. And let's see, this is the folder I'm going to be working out of. So if I open a folder here, because I haven't really opened a folder. There we go, boom. So over here, we see everything in that folder. Boom. There's everything in that folder. You have a folder view. It does everything for you just like you'd expect. Boom. Pretty rad. As you would expect, it's a folder. It's a folder. So if I close out of this, exit. Let's launch it again here. Yeah, just boom. Got a folder view. Good to go. Just like VS Code. You can also do continue without code. You just boom, you're good to go. It's really fast. Can it be keyboard driven? I don't know. I don't know what you mean by keyboard driven. Oh yeah, C# is great. I'm a big C# person. I'm a believer. I hope they're big thing on accessibility. So a lot of things running via no mouse. So I'm gonna go with that's good feedback. I don't know if Uni's in the chat, but he's there. I don't know. I'm not a keyboard shortcut person, but that's a good question. I'd have to imagine yes. I'm gonna have to ask the team. Uni, I'm making this for Uni. Whenever you have a note for, especially for VS Mac, I'm gonna ask Uni about it. I like this though. We have this clone repo. So let's say I'm over in GitHub and I really want to get something fast. You can come in and just copy that URL and paste it in there. And let's say I want to, I'm actually going to clone WinForms right now. Right? So here's WinForms. We open source WinForms and WPF. This is all of WinForms. So what I can do is I can come in and say, oh, I want to clone WinForms and just hit clone. What this will do is now launch Visual Studio. And it's going to clone that. See, I just cloned it all in my Team Explorer. And then what it's going to do is launch into this folder view. So it just loads up because we have a folder view built right in. We get the entire folder view and I can bop around inside of here and start to explore it, which is really nice right there. You can also start to explore stuff. So if I said directory or system dot, let's see. Well, it should eventually pop up some IntelliSense for Windows. Should ideally start showing me some stuff in here. Maybe I have to open the solution. Oh, I think I have to open the solution. So if I open WinForms, it has 13 projects. So it opens really fast. I just loaded everything there. And then in the background over here, it's going to do a bunch of stuff, which is really cool. And then I should be able to do like, start searching if the new quick stuff is working or not. There we go. So there's like edit system.winform, project, build properties, different ones. So it's going to try to pop in a bunch of like little features there, which is nice. They're working on that, but now yeah, everything is ready. I just cloned WinForms, opened it up, load all the dependencies, and everything was going super quick. I think the one thing they're really working on in 2019 is this first to code. You know what I mean? Which is nice, which I'm really excited about. Well, lots of questions in the chat. Oh my goodness. Okay. So that's kind of the getting started, but I also want to kind of explore here a little bit. There's obviously property output. It looks very familiar, but everything in the vertical space is a lot more. So I can see me, live share is built right in. Yeah, there's already an update. Now I'm on an internal preview, so I get updates every day. And then all the other stuff that you would expect is all still here. So nothing is gone dramatically, right? It's not like everything is huge dramatic change and there's still a blue theme, a light theme, a dark theme, all the things that you would expect as normal are all there. Yeah, does it feel faster? It feels a whole bunch faster. I mean, opening, closing projects, a lot of things are pushed off to the side. I like that. I can go from open, and then boom, it's good to go, right? It's really smooth experience, which I love. Let's see. Let's see. Windows, Mac is included in the TFS included. So TFS is included in this in Visual Studio for Mac. TFS, there's an extension that'll be included in Visual Studio for Mac. So that'll be there. You can grab it today, actually, to handle TFVC too, which is cool. SSH repos? That's a good question. I guess you could toggle it to this. We could check it. I don't know. Oops, I said open folder. That's not what I wanted. Let's see, clone. No, it's only URLs right now. So maybe in the future it'll be Git repos. Oh, that'd be cool. So we'll see. But right now, just the HTTPS it looks like. But I think you can just do normal Git clone, of course, too. So maybe they'll include that in there. I was saying getting to code faster. So trying to get to my code as far as like the seconds it takes to get to code. So I call that like kind of like a first to open, first to code, first to clone. Like how fast does it go? It's kind of a weird terminology. I guess I spit it out. More of, I guess what I'm thinking, Keith, is not first to code, but time to code. Maybe that's what I was looking for. Like how long does it take to get to my code? Yeah, so how long is that? I don't know why I said first to code. Time to code? Time to code, that seems right. Mezu asked that. There we go. Yeah, it feels a little faster overall, and all speed improvements are good. Mezu asks, yeah, I'll get there. I'm getting there, don't worry. So now what I want to do is I want to walk through some code refactoring. So I have some stuff in here. And I'm going to walk through some productivity improvements here first that they have inside of it. Now, the problem with having so many time to first code, so that's what it's called, TTFC, is when you launch it, you have to have a default. So I'm going to probably mess this up and click on different ones the entire time. Time to first code. Okay, so... Oh, someone asked me about GitHub. Let me show that next then. Instead of going to this productivity demos, let me show you our new pull request flow. So the GitHub extension, I installed it separate, but built in is a brand new pull request experience for Visual Studio. So everything I'm going to show you here in this new pull request scenario is both for Visual Studio or Azure DevOps and GitHub. They have a brand new pull request experience to help you get in and out of code a lot better and faster. So I have a project here called Monkey, my Monkey app. I just put it in a private repo for this demo. And I opened a pull request here. And all I did was come in and change some code. Which is cool. And what I want to kind of show is that I have all my app in here. Let's go ahead and 150. That this is just my app in my project. And I can come into the Team Explorer. And this is going to show me over here that I have... that GitHub for Visual Studio installed, but they have some new options here. So I can fork it, I can look at pull requests, I can see graphs, issues, see the pulse, all that sort of built in. And then down here, look at this, right? So I get really nice information about what branch I'm on. That's been around for a while. Here I can actually take a look at this pull request. So if I zoom out over here, this is going to launch the GitHub extension. And what this is going to do is show me that I had a pull request already merged. So let's go back to master. Oh, this is new. I could stash and continue. Let's stash and continue. That sounds okay. That's new. I've never seen that before. Let's see, checking out master started. So there's a lot of stuff happening in the background. Let's see, that should happen. Doing a lot of things live. That's what I like to also say. Let's see here. Okay, so it's going to update my pull request. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, cool. So here is my pull request. There's obviously some issue here. That's good. But if I look here, so now I'm inside of Visual Studio. I can double tap on this pull request. I'm on master, and I can see right away that I have a pull request from add range into master. And I also don't even have that locally at all. I've never brought it down at all. But what I can do is I can view it on GitHub, or I can come in and double click on that file, and I can start to review that pull request right in line. I don't have to go to GitHub. I don't have to bop around, and I can say, oh, Well, what you've done here is you've changed it from this here over to add range. And what I can do is I can even write comments. So I can give this, this looks great. This looks great. I can start a review here. And we'll add a line there. There we go. What else can I do? So that's where I can add anything in there. I can sticky I can modify it. I can make it pending. We can go and say, let's submit review. There we go. So now if I come back over into my pull request over here, we'll see that I actually have a comment that this looks great. Okay. And that that it was reviewed and it was good to go. So I can actually say, oh, that's great, right? I can add a review, or here I can say this, I approve of this. Boom. Submit that over. So that's the submit there. And then I'm pretty sure I can even, let's see here. Where's my pull? Let me make sure I pull this down. Things are working correct. I should be able to open. Usually I'm able to check it out. I'm not sure why I'm not able to check it out. Let's go back into Team Explorer and go into changes. Maybe I have a bunch of things unchecked out here. So let's do this. Let's undo all that stuff. That was all my stash stuff, I think, changes there. Let's delete that. There we go. Go back to base. So if I come over, go into my PRs. So I'm usually able to check that out. I'm not sure why I'm not able to. Let me go into my Team Explorer. Changes. Sync. Let's go ahead and sync it. There we go. Maybe I need to make sure I have things in there. I'm not sure about notifications. That would be surprisingly nice. Oh, there we go. So now I have my master in sync, and we can notice that that was my problem, is now I could check out add range here. So I could actually check it out right from this. So let's do no. Let's not modify anything. And I'll say my local branches here, so I don't need to go and worry about anything. I can note that there's a comment here. So I actually go right directly into the comment that's going on, which is pretty cool. Visual Studio is going to continue. But I should be able to say I approve of this. There's my review comment, and I can say merge pull request, merge it in. Pretty sure I can merge from here too. Where to go? And it should. Let's see here. Load up. I don't know what happened. There we go. But I should be able to see any of my old pull requests that came in on Monkey Finish, and then see it was merged. So I could go through, see the add range, see the comments. There's nothing open here. But I can even see closed pull requests, so I can come in and say, hey, this was merged. Here's what it came from, etc., and handle it from there, which is super cool. So I kind of like that. And if you're in Team Explorer and you need to do this different stuff, you can go back and forth, or you can create a fork. So I want to fork this repository. It kind of nice does it. Yeah, VS updates while I'm going. So that's like the new built-in pull requests. It also works for Azure DevOps repos, so you can go ahead and use that too, which is cool. Let's look at the chat here. Do you get some sort of notification? Yeah, the notification you got is actually in here, and it'll tell you here. I don't know if there's like a pop-up somewhere. I'd have to ask the team about that. I think you might get something, but you do get a little notification on the code and a little notification here that there's a comment, and vice versa. So if I came back and I said, whoa, update, this should, there's my reviewers on there. I guess if I commented on the code, I would see that there's another comment there. So let's see if I did that. Let's see if that works. Sometimes I just like to see if it works. Here, if I go, amazing. Add single line. Come back over here. I'd have to see if this refreshes or not. There's multiple lines. Now it is merged, so I'm not 100% positive, but it should tell me if it's there or not. I'm imagining. that it'll go back and forth. Imagining. We'll see. Is there any way to have an individual code review task? Yeah, I think if I was to assign it to myself, I could start a code review there. I'm not sure, though. That's a good question. Oh, President asks... Oh, no. So yeah, if you had your code in Azure DevOps, everything here would be in this Team Explorer tab. The GitHub tab is only for GitHub integration that's there. So it could be, anything that you have in Azure DevOps, whether it's Git or TFVC, you should, I think TFVC, don't quote me on that. I didn't try that. But you would see everything right here inside of it. So your comments, you could start a new pull request, anything like that. So that will be there. All right, cool. Let's jump over to some productivity improvements. So I mentioned there's tons of refactorings and a bunch of other stuff happening. So I'm going to show and walk through some code just in general, some things that are really cool. So I have this nice little sample app. I'm going to make the code a little bit bigger for everyone. And a big theme that I know the team and the productivity team has been working on is making it better. Oh, before I go here, making it better. Or more code refactorings, right? Things like that. Raven Thorn asks, in your experience, what are the big differences between repos and Azure DevOps and GitHub? I mean, it's Git, so Git is everywhere. It's either you want to use GitHub or you want to use Azure DevOps. There's some nice things to using Azure DevOps if you're using the tasks boards in Azure DevOps and CI/CD in Azure DevOps, because all of the things kind of chain together nicely. And then, it's all private repos, so that's different. If you do an open source, GitHub is obviously really great there, like Decryptor said. So it's kind of the things to think about in the IDE. So think about that. All right, productivity. Okay, so I'm gonna do lots of zoom in. So here's some code, right? And it says I have this async task, and then I say get number async. There's a lot of times where I come into code and I start writing like async, async task, do stuff, and then I will be like var, x equals get number async, and then return, I'll do something like that. And this is the same issue, is that I've marked this as async, but nothing is awaited inside of the code, which is sort of a big issue. And you get little squigglies here that tell you that it is missing that. So now what you can do is you should get a little, where is it at? Pop up right there. And it says add await. So, or you can configure await false. Boop. And then I'll just add it for you, right? So it's going to not only tell you, but give you a nice little helper. Easy, pretty straightforward, pretty cool though. Now I'm a big fan of like different anonymous types, tuples, all sorts of things like that. And again, this is one of those scenarios where I have some code, and maybe right now I want this to be its own thing. Now, I get my normal code refactorings here for introduce a new local, different occurrences, but maybe I want to make this a new class. So now I can just right click on the new and say convert to class. And that will bring in all of the scaffolding for that new class for me automatically, right there. So it gives me my public int. It actually correctly capitalizes that for me, gives me a constructor, replaces the code for it automatically, which is nice. So it gives me that class, and then even gives me the equals get hash code. So all automatically, right? It's little things, which is cool. So I like that one a lot because sometimes you just have anonymous classes here and there, and you need to fix them up. Same thing over here. Like, let's say you have some tuples. So you had anonymous classes before, now you have tuples. And a new thing that you can do here is you can take that tuple and turn it into a struct automatically, which is cool. So here, for instance, I could use var, and I could remove unused things, and I could destruct things. But here I can say, use this and change it to a struct for me, this tuple, okay? And then this tuple will now have A and B and equals and get hash code and a deconstructor and implicit operators all done for me automatically for that struct, which is really cool. So it handles that all for you automatically, so you don't have to write any of that code, which is nice. All just built in with nothing else needed. Some other nice things. One thing I really like is, hey TR, is being able to find dead code in projects. So over here, in previous versions of Visual Studio, it wouldn't really tell you much about. It'll tell you stuff like unused directives and using statements. But here I have maybe a few methods. Here's M2, and this assigns F2 or uses F2, assigns F3, but I never use F1. So now it'll just say, don't use that. Now, additionally though, F3 is being used here. And here, this is gonna tell me in my IntelliSense that this private, it can be removed because it's assigned, but never read it all. So you could actually safely remove this. Now, this isn't gonna give you a code action because it's not gonna, try to be aggressive and remove that code because you are assigning it. So there's nothing there, but it's gonna at least highlight and show you that it's there, which is really nice. And I'll do that for methods too, if you have other methods that you're not using or calling or doing stuff. Yeah. So a lot of nice things in here. And I use plain vanilla Visual Studio and stuff like that too. So I'm really impressed. Now, I'm a huge fan of local functions. I think they're the most amazing thing ever, especially when you deal with events and trying to change those events to async await here and there. And I kind of find them a little bit more functional, which I really appreciate. So take a look at this code, which I have a few methods in here. I even have another, a few voids, some T's, some are reference types, some are normal ones here. And in this code, what I have is a method that takes in some parameters where there's structures, and then down here I have this method. It's a local function. It's a local function inside of my method. Now, this is interesting because it takes in some parameters. Some are reference types, some are local. It even takes in an instance of this, and a reference to the function that I called up here too. So one of the new things that you can do is you should be able to, let me see where it's at. Let's say convert to method. Nope. Yeah, convert to method. There we go. So what this will do is it will move this out completely into another method and handle it for you 100%. So here it's going to take in all the parameters for you, so you can pass that through this awesome local function, which is nice. So it's all just built in, all good to go, which is super nice. Move that back up there. Let's see if we have any questions. TR, you can ask about DocumentDB. I don't know if I can answer them, but I can try. Yeah, lots of light bulbs. I'm a big light bulb person, so I like to right click, and you can control dot on any of these too, so you can get some stuff. I'm a big light bulb person. Get different light bulbs in here. So that's cool. Yeah, I think with the power of Roslyn, it's really enabling a lot of these new things. All right, a few little other ones that I really like, little, small, cool. So here I'm looping through an array. As always, you may want to take that array. You may want to convert it to a 4. There we go. So now it's a 4, back and forth. You can come back over here and make it back a 4 each. There you go. Cool. Right, back and forth. Now, the bar, there's like a little shed right here. This little deck, I think, is what they're talking about. I guess it's not really a scroll bar. It's over here. Oh, these little code little things in the scroll bar. You can't really see them. They're there. Oh, Cosmos DB in front of DocumentDB. So there you go. That's your question, TR? I don't know. So, but you can do this for nested statements too. So here, if I want to, I can actually, I can't convert that to a 4 or for a 4 int, I think I could, but I can also convert this to a link query too, because it's a for each inside of a for each. So I could convert, you can see that this is a for each statement. I can't really loop through it because it's from X in this back and forth. So what I can do is I can convert this to a link statement, really nice and cute. I can also take this, and if I didn't want it to be in that form, I could also make it a select. So you could do the dot operators on it and it'll figure it out for you. Same thing down here. Look at how complex and crazy this one is. Has so many this is really probably not the greatest code to write, but here, for instance, you have this huge crazy for each loop, and you can convert it to link or to for. That was another thing in here. So if I wanted to, I could convert it to for on that one. I could come in, convert it to the link statement. There it is, which is really nice. And then you can move it back and forth, and you can do different things too inside of it. I don't know if you can move it back to what it originally was, but I think at least you can change it to link statements, which is cool. So right under the scroll bar. Oh, yeah, this thing here, this is a code cleanup tool. I'll get to that here in a second, actually. This is a new suggestion. You can write on here and you can configure code cleanup. So here you can say remove usings, remove all this other stuff, all this stuff, which is cool there. But you can also then do like run code cleanup, and it will clean up all your code. Which actually brings me to this one here, which is, let's say you get some sweet code from Stack Overflow. So let's say that, what's it doing? There we go. So let's say I just have a very simple application like this, which is like a private static. Like, oh, I got some sweet code from the GitHubs, and then paste that in there, right? Now, right away, Visual Studio is going to kick in and say, oh, you're missing all of these using statements. And what's the first thing we got to do? We got to go right click on everything. Just right click everywhere. Just got to right click. You just go in and you're just like,
and I'm going to do what all Visual Studio developers do. I'm going to start right-clicking on everything.
I'm just going to right-click on everything. But I no longer have to right-click, because over here is a little tool that says add missing using statements. So this is going to add all of my using statements up top for me automatically, which is cool, right? I don't have to do one, and that just makes me feel good.
But unlike Chris, I'm not a command line guy. I love that warm, fuzzy feeling of my IDE.
Makes me feel good. So some of these things, which are cool, right? But now let's say you're like, oh, look at this using statement here, and there's vars, and this should be a var, and a bunch of other things. And that's where this code cleanup tool comes in, because this code cleanup tool is telling me there's 7 warnings and 6 suggestions, okay? And it's giving me suggestions here for var usage, because I actually have an editor config file here. And what that is doing is telling me to use new lines, use different items, and I can specify my team settings for my solution here for C#, for VB, for everything. And the code cleanup tool will use yours, or you can will use your editor config, or just do some stuff out of the box for you. So I can configure it here, and here's all the things that I want it to do, and it'll respect my editor config on top of it. So now I can say run code cleanup and hit OK, and it'll just run and clean up this entire file for me. Everything. Change spaces to tabs, or tabs to spaces, or everything like that. You're good to go, and it'll handle it for you automatically, which is great. And it just, boom, does it, right? Out of the box. And that's one thing I nice. And then notice over here, this goes to green. No errors, no warnings, no anything, which is super sweet, which is cool. Yeah, same thing here. So if I now go and I comment this out, right, it's gonna pop back in, and it should show me that, hey, they got a little suggestion that it's here. And one thing I really do like too is you can also at the same time, let's say I didn't, I can just click once and it'll just go through it. So if I click on that, it'll loop through all of the errors or issues for me, which is really cool. Let's go ahead and fix that up. Cool. Last thing that I have is some regex improvements for everyone in the stream. So in the world of regex, they're quite silly and complicated, but we've added syntax highlighting here. So you can see that there's different pipes and different colors inside of here, which is really nice. We also give you some code analysis for your regex if you don't need them. So you can just go ahead and clean this up one little one at a time. And then what I love is this feature, which is this is just a string. Now you can add this comment to say, hey, the language underneath this string is a regex that requires explicit capture, and then it'll highlight your regex for you automatically. Just pretty bananas, which is cool. Oh, we got some new followers. Amish Dev in the house. DJ. Golnaz in the house. The Golnaz, I think, maybe. Checking out the stream. Appreciate that. Thanks for the follows. I love that stuff. It's little bits, right? They're little bits, but also kind of big things in general. Oh, Keith asks, can you do that with SQL? I don't know. I don't know if they added that. That'd be cool if you had like a SQL provider. I'll have to ask them, Keith. That's a good question. It's a good question, but before I do that, I need to sip of water. Maybe pour a little bit more coffee. We'll see how that goes. That would be great for SQL. I think that's probably something doable. Roslyn, make everything possible. Wouldn't see why not. Try it. Give me a SQL command. I don't know. Select. Let's see. Const string SQL equals at. What is it, like select star from something? I don't know. I don't know anything. Language equals SQL. Does that seem like a valid string? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it, but I don't know what my syntax could be. That'd be interesting. All right, so there's a bunch of there's a whole bunch more too. So there's a whole bunch of more stuff that I didn't even show, which is cool. So, which is cool. But there's a whole bunch of productivity gains, which I simply love. Let's not save any of those, so that way I can demo it again. Oh, here's another thing that I love too. So that's some of the introduction of Visual Studio, kind of an overview, things like that. New search bar, new vertical stuff too. But one of my new favorite features, besides live share, which I'm not going to demo today, but some other things, is actually some other Intellisense features, which was demoed pretty heavily on stage, which I'm going to go into even more, which is IntelliCode, which is built into Visual Studio 2019 and also for VS Code. And this is sort of AI-driven IntelliSense for your apps. It helps you sort of code better with recommendations, find some better error detection, and focus on some code reviews. But a lot of what we demoed here is a lot of assisted IntelliSense to give you better recommendations that are contextualized based on what you're doing in the code. And I like kind of what Hanselman demoed on stage. I kind of like my application with Xamarin plugins and other things too. So I figured what I would do is show off IntelliCode over here. So I'm going to open that Monkey Finder app, which is a Xamarin.Forms application, and walk around that a little bit. So, so a few things in here. So this app has some monkeys. It has some observable range collection. This is a custom class here. MVVM helpers. I have some commands from Xamarin.Forms. I have some code like going to get some data asynchronously. And then I have some geolocation code in here too. So the first thing that we'll notice inside of here, so if I start to come into this code, is I should be able to do something like, all right, monkeys is a interface of IEnumerable. So I say monkeys dot. I want to notice what you're getting here with IntelliCode. Okay. So IntelliCode is enabled on my Visual Studio machine. And what we did is we took tons of open source projects and ran our AI and machine learning on those projects against BCL, so base class library, for C#, also for C++, I think Java, JavaScript, and Python. And what we're seeing here are AI-driven IntelliSense based on where I'm at in code. So for instance, here, normally if I have an IEnumerable, my recommendations are to list, to array, select, where, because while Intellisense is amazing, one of my main problems is just so much of it. So it'd be great to narrow it down. But I want to show you some cool things here. So if I say, if monkeys dot, oh, and now it's an IEnumerable. So let's go into this, monkeys, capital monkeys, which is going to be an observable range collection, dot. There is, oh, why is that still there? Oh, I might have broke it. Let's go IntelliCode. No, I thought I deleted this model. Let me see. Please hold. Oh, I'm going to delete this model. There we go. Okay. So I brought up the IntelliCode menu, and here's all the stuff that's in it. So let's go ahead and see here. Okay, so monkeys dot. Oh, it's probably still going to give it to me. Darn it. Let me close this and reopen it. It'll be better. Better demo if I do it that way. That one. There we go. Cool. I'm like, where'd it go? All right. Okay. Monkeys dot. No, why is it there? Oh, wait, where am I at? Oh, I'm on master. Did that work? Let me see. Where am I at? Okay. Oh, this works. Okay. So let me change this back to observable range collection in a different file. Okay, cool. So let's say I'm over here and I do monkeys dot. Oh, gosh darn it. Please hold. I have too many of the same exact things everywhere. Open with. I have like clones of my code everywhere. Yes, AI does. It always wants me to know everything. All right, so let's see if this is going to work. I have too many. All right, so now we're back. Perfect. Okay, it worked. Okay, so this is my custom collection, right? Observable range collection. Now notice I don't get any Intellisense because I haven't done anything out of the box. But let's say I just grab the first one. Now I have a monkey, which is a class that I have. So I have details, ID, things like that. But let's say I have an ID, which is a string. Now, inside of here, this should give me some IntelliCode. There we go. So this is a string, so I should get length, replace, split, trim to lower. But let's say if I put that inside of an if statement, right? I have ID dot. Now I get something different. Notice that I get length starts with equals contains because it's contextualized, right? So if I say length equals 0, and I say monkeys 0 dot ID dot, I get length substring trim. Okay, notice that. 4, if I come in here, starts with equals contains split trim. They're different IntelliSense based on what I'm doing in my code, which I think is really unique. So that's really awesome just based on that string. You know, if I even just put that string into something else, so var test equals this, and then I do test dot. Again, I get length starts with contains because they're common things that I'm going to be doing inside that if statement compared to test dot, then I'm more likely to do some other things. Probably if I do var test2 equals test dot, I might get some other, placements based on my context there. Now I noticed though that monkeys dot doesn't bring up anything because it's custom. So if I come up into my search and I do let's see, my IntelliCode window, this is going to say, hey, we have base C#, some C++, and some XAML. I'll get into that in a few seconds, which is super cool. But I also am able to train my code with IntelliCode so it can learn my patterns and enable me to do more, with this app. So let me train this code. It's going to take my code. I think it uploads it and then metadata and something, a bunch of other stuff. I don't know what it does, but it uploads and it starts to train a model based on my code. Okay. Which is kind of crazy. This takes about 30 to 60 seconds in this app. So it's learning my code. Problem is done. I can share this model. It'll give me a URL where other people can import it into their app. But it's there. There it is. It's good to go. And what I like is that it shows me like, oh, this learned monkey and a few other things. It covered 40 classes of custom code. So now if I come back over here and I go monkeys dot, now it's going to tell me that, hey, you probably want to do add range inside of this code, which is cool, which I super like. So now I'm actually getting some Intellisense right here based on that. Additionally, if I say monkeys dot or sub-0 dot, it says, hey, you probably want latitude or details based on the code that I've been writing before. Now, I want to preface here that it's not just base models. It's also the different NuGet libraries that I have. So inside of this project, I have Xamarin Essentials and Xamarin.Forms and other things in JSON.NET that enable me to do more things. So what I can do inside of here is, look at this. This is code that I wrote, which says get last known code async and then get location async. So what's cool here is, watch this. Let's say I come in and I write another method and I say, oh, wait, and I say geolocation dot. Now it's going to recommend get last known location async because that's what I've written in the past. This is the flow. Okay. But watch this. Now if I say await geolocation dot, it recommends the next logical path, which is get location async. It literally knows based on what I did previously what to recommend to me next, which is crazy. And this is even true for other things. So let's say I come in down here and notice that I have a, where's it at? Let me get rid of this thingy here. Is I have a method over here that is organizing the monkeys by this distance. All right. And what this is doing is it's taking every monkey that's in this list and going to calculate the distance. So what I love here is that I can do m dot, which is a monkey, and it's going to recommend latitude. Then m dot, and then it recommends longitude. What? It's like so that one blew my mind when I did that, because it's not that it's even just contextual based on if statements, other things. It's what I'm doing in my code. It learned and looked at my code and said, hey, you normally access latitude and then longitude, okay? And then it will then do it in your code because it knows and learned off of your training model that you gave it, right? Absolutely amazing.
It should also read that I crushed it from 2013 to present.
It really makes me feel like
Nothing is impossible.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, it's so cool, right? It really is super helpful. But I'm a Xamarin.Forms developer too, and a Xamarin developer. So one other thing that we did with no custom model needed is you can come into your XAML. So here, for instance, I have some XAML. This works with WPF, UWP, Xamarin.Forms. I can come into here, and if I just start typing, it's going to recommend based on where I'm at the next logical thing. Now, I will say it does recommend grid.row definitions, but I'm not sure why, even though I did it ahead. But it is going to recommend that I maybe start with grid or label or a stack layout or a button. What I like here is that I can now come in and I don't even have to start typing. It says, hey, literally most likely, you can just go in and hit text, right? And say hello. And then you can do command or clicked or with that's there. So here's command. And then I can do a binding to, whatever my command is. that's there. And then it'll say, hey, most likely you do command parameter next, right? So it's helping me write better XAML at the same time, which I like, which is super cool. Let's see, some questions in the chat. You can use kilometers instead of miles if you want, whatever you want. And it'll probably learn, right? That's actually, I'm very interested. I wonder if I do distance. Okay, so I've used miles in the past, so it's going to recommend miles for me, which is there. Let's see. Someone asked, is IntelliCode for 2019 in it? That's a good question. I'm on an internal preview, so yes, it's there for me. I thought it was available for everyone via the extension stuff. If you type Intelli, does it come up inside of IntelliCode? I thought it was just built in, but I'd have to ask. That's a good question. So, we'll see. You can get a preview for IntelliCode, but it doesn't have all of the training and all the other stuff too inside of it. That's a new feature here, which is cool. And then you can delete this model and it'll go away, or you can retrain. There's no auto retrain, but you can have it retrain. All right, let's take a quick follow break. Let me just clear my 1 hour mark. Make sure everyone's hanging in there. Answer some questions. Make sure you hit up some follow. If you're a Twitch Prime or an Amazon Prime member, you can subscribe for free using your Twitch Prime. All money that's donated with bits or via anything else all goes to charity. That's too, just so you know. If you're new to the stream, that's what I do here. Let's see, we're at like 486 followers, so we're getting there, close to my 500 goal. So that's pretty rad. All right. So that's IntelliCode, super rad. All right, a bunch of other things if I walk through this, right? So new UI refresh. More code refactorings, AI-driven IntelliSense with IntelliCode. I talked a little bit about live share, but didn't necessarily talk about show it off at all. Let's see. Let's see. Where's night? I'm gonna adjust some timers here on Nightbox. It's getting kind of annoying. I guess it's every whatever. Let's do this. I'm gonna change a few things. That makes sense. All right, there we go. I'm just adjusting some timers on my Nightbot thing. Let's see. I'm really seeing the value of this. Oh, cool. Nice. I'm glad that you're enjoying some stuff. Yeah, IntelliCode's super, super cool.
Some people dream of success.
Cool. Thanks, Pac-Man. Thank you for the...
Nothing is impossible.
Thank you for the sub.
Nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible.
Nothing is impossible. We're just doing this together. Thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. And you get some sweet emoticons and cool little James by your hand. Or by your chat thingy. Cool. Oh, better pull requests. So better pull requests. I love it. All right, let's talk about .NET. That was Visual Studio. Let's talk about .NET. And to me, .NET is our super awesome, free, cross-platform, open source platform for everyone to build all of your apps for everything. I'm going to go through a bunch of different stuff today, but I figured I'd start actually first with that .NET itself is this beautiful platform that allows you to build for every single different platform out there that you can think of, whether it's desktop, mobile, AI, cloud, web, it's there. .NET powers it all, which is something near and dear to my heart. It's why I'm a developer, is half of it's just for .NET alone, to be honest with you. It really saved my career and put me off on a good trajectory. And of course, not only is .NET a great platform, but there's great languages that go along with it. So C#, F#, VB.NET, all of those together really enable you to write any language, whether you're functional, whether you're into C# and the structure of it, or into VB still, everything is powered. And I figured what I would do is actually walk through some C# 8 features that are coming out, and C# itself is really advancing really fast, which I love since it's open source with Roslyn. And with C# 7, there was 7, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3. So you got all sorts of nice little things along the way. And C# 8 is probably one of my favorite new things that's coming out and adding new features. So what I'm going to do is close this down and open up yet another C# down or another project. And we're going to use some C# 8 features in this project. So in C# 8, there's a bunch of different themes. It's all about, you know, even more code cleanup, but helping us be more productive every single day. So I'm going to walk through this sample app. Now, I have to give credit where credit's due. A lot of people here gave me lots of cool demos, and Mads gave me this sample app that he walked through, but I figured I'd walk through some of the cool things that we have, and this is a great little sample app that walks through it. So this is pretty straightforward. So what this does is it calls to a service to get subscribers. It gets the names of the subscribers and then prints them out to a for each. And that service gets a person, and a person is a first name, middle name, last name, and then we'll output this. So we for each through all the people, call get name, that appends all the names together. So now the first thing that we're going to talk about with C# 8 is our improvements to null and null reference types. So in this instance, a lot of times when I'm writing code myself, I look at my crashes, and half the time they're just null reference exceptions that are occurring throughout my code. And that's super annoying and super tedious to go try to clean up. So if I run this application here, we're not going to let Visual Studio update itself. We're going to run it. It's just a console app. And here it's going to run it, and boom, I get an exception. All right. Now, this is showing me here that we get a null exception, which kind of stinks. And it's not set to an instance. So if I look over here, we can see that this person, Dustin Campbell, classic, has no middle name. So it's going to return null. And this is going to throw an exception. So boom. So how do we make it so we stop throwing exceptions and stop crashing before we get into production? Well, in C# 8, there's a new null reference type that we can enable in our code that will help us check for nulls basically ahead of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in a £sign over here. It's like a compiler flag almost, and it's going to say nullable enable. Now, so this is going to enable the nullable properties here. And what's going to happen for nullable reference types, I'm going to get a little dot over here. Okay. Now, what this is going to do is the compiler is going to say, hey, we turned on nullable. So now everything is non-nullable. Okay. So that means nothing can be null. Okay, so this won't, it's going to give me a warning. It says this can't be null because I turned on nullable. So everything is a non-nullable reference type. So it's nullable reference type. So they can't be null anymore. And this is going to tell me that, hey, this middle name, which by default could be null, is uninitialized. So we can go through and we could say, okay, well then fine, just like an initialize middle name to null. Because I want it to be null, but we've turned on this flag. So now it's going to say, hey, I can't turn null literals to non-nullable reference types. So in this instance where I've turned this on and I say, hey, nothing can be null anymore. So none of my classes, string can't be null anymore. Maybe middle name should be null. And this is why it's an opt-in property instead of just turning it on for everyone. So I'm actually going to put a question mark here, which is nice. And now this is going to go away, and it's going to say, hey, all right, this can be null. So this can't be null. This can be null. All right, which is pretty cool. But then our compiler also says, hey, you said that nothing can be null except for middle name. And now I'm telling you that there's a possible null reference, because it knows that since this can be null, that if I index in on 0, well, heck, that could cause an issue. So I could solve that, and I'll say if p dot middle name does not equal null. Okay, it's going to get the first initial. Then that's going to go away. So that's super nice. But this is not the most elegant code because we're not outputting anything for middle name. So what we could do is maybe we could turn this into a ternary operator. Okay. So I'll say if it's not equal null, return that. Else, let's go ahead and return something else. Now this is intriguing because I might just have code as I turn this on. And notice that here it's like doing the check and it's telling me that, hey, you know, that's okay. Or here I could do equals equals null, and then it should flip it here for me, because this one is possible to be null. This one's not possible to be null. So if I flip it back, the compiler is going to help me along the way. And then I can go ahead and remove this here. I can rerun this application. Now I know for sure it's not going to crash, because there's no way that it can crash, because boom, I put everything in there, which is nice. Boom. So that's nullable reference types, which is super cool. Another thing though is that this is going off and getting an IEnumerable of strings. It's just kind of leading these back to me. So in C#8, one thing interesting. Oh, I should say that you can turn this on at a project level, or also at a file level, or all projects. So you can just go into your CS project and turn it on for everything, and you can turn on non-nullables for everything, which is amazing. So definitely, I'm excited to turn it on for all of my projects and put question marks everywhere when needed. I think that's really going to help third-party libraries and developers that are there, and really help that out. Yeah, they do equal. Very nice. Okay, so this is getting an IEnumerable. So here, for instance, it is just going and getting a list of subscribers. But what in the instance where maybe I need to iterate over that data, and maybe there's an async version where I'm going off, grabbing data and processing the data. You know, the problem we have today is that there's no way to really stagger in data inside of here. So we're introducing a new concept, and by the way, we, I mean, not me, because I don't work on the team, but Madsen team and C# team, calling something called async streams. And async streams are cool because they allow you to stream in data over time. And we have a new type that we've introduced that's called async enumerable. I think there's going to be a few different ones, but the first one here is async enumerable. And what this does is it allows you to go and stream data in asynchronously. I guess you could do that. Yeah, Keith, you could probably do that too. Yeah. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to simulate some delay. So I'm going to get my subscribers and I'm going to simulate sort of a delay streaming and processing data. All right, just pop. So I can use this now, and I can say get subscribers async, which is going to return not a task, right? This is not a task. It's an async enumerable, but it's happening asynchronously. So if I look here, this is going to tell me that I can't convert IEnumerable here to async enumerable, because this is taking an async enumerable. So what we can do is we can say async enumerable, which is now going to pass that in. Now, the problem here is that people is async. All right, if we know anything about async await, whenever you have something that's asyncable, you need to be able to iterate on this people, but they're streaming in. So you can't process the second person until it gets there. So there's a brand new way of doing this. So on this for each, I'll add an await for each. And await for each is going to iterate through that async enumerable, but on demand. Okay. And of course here, this also needs an async flag, because we're async and await. But at that point, get names, you know, either has to be a task, or in this instance, we want it to return an async enumerable of string. So we take in an async enumerable that we're processing. Here we're for eaching over it, and then boom. And the same thing happens up here. So as I go into this code, go in here, we can notice that for each names, which is async enumerable, we will await as those come in and stream over them. And then of course, await needs an async, and a C# 7.2 feature, even though this is static main, allows me to do async task. Now, this is all happy. And now when I run this code, it's going to stagger in the data and allow me to process it. So here's one, some simulating, some processing going here, but my UI is active, it's not locked up, and I'm streaming in data across using iAsync enumerable, which is super duper cool. And there we go, boom, just ran my application. Super nice little feature going on there, which I think is super, super rad. Last one here for C#8. Notice here that I have a list for each through all of these. One of the problems that I've always had is that it's kind of tricky and hard to slice up data inside of an array. You have to know indices, have to know back and forth. So there's a new subrange protocol. So here's this people, which is a person array. I can now say like 3 ... 5, for instance. And this will give me back 3 to 5. Or if I want 1 ... 3, 1 to 3, and that'll slice the data here for me. So a little range index here. I can also say var range equals new range. What is it, like 1 ... 3. And then I can do this. Or no, it's, is that it? No, it's range. It's like that or something. There's something I can do. Is that it? Yep, that's what it is. So I can do that and then put the range in there. This is pretty cool. I can also do this, which is _1, and this will do 1 to the end of it, which is nice. So you can slice it up, which is really cool. Kind of like Python. Yeah, so something that's, you know, kind of needed, I think, just in general. So it's an index. So a range is an index. So it's from. So you have this in here. So this is an implicit operator that's coming back, which is super cool. So I like that one a lot because I can just be like, oh, 1 to 3, and just give it back to me, or 3 to the end, right? 3 to or 1 to the end, or whatever you want, which is cool. So that's some C#8 goodies that are coming in, but there's a lot more. If I go through here, there's some really nice ones. Those are the ones that are built in, but there's a few more that are coming in. So here, for instance, this is the code that I just showed you. Now I'm only covering one possibility of code, which is if the middle name is null, okay? And I have this new thing called recursive patterns, all right? Now what's cool here is that this will allow me to basically, I think Mads kind of described it as like tuple switch casing. So here, instead of just having one parameter, I can have as many parameters as I want. So here I can check against if all of these are strings, or maybe the middle one, you know, my middle name is null, and then I can go ahead and use that. But of course you might want to add some more namespace, you know, some more cases. So maybe if last name is null, or maybe if middle name and last name are null. So you can kind of expand this out inside of here and get really crazy and start to handle all the different cases. And if you handle everything here, though, it gets really bananas. So this is kind of pretty intense, but it's kind of nice that you can do this. But if you look, this is kind of getting verbose with this kind of recursive pattern, this tuple pattern matching, if you will. So what we've done here in the code is we're enabling you to get rid of all that cruft and use switch expressions. So instead of writing stuff like this, you can simply write a switch expression, which is exactly the same, where you would do cases and then output. So just like expression methods or expressions that you would write, you can now do this in switch cases, which I think is really, really great. And you can line this up and really optimize it. And this will even, since switch always has to return, the compiler will enable you, and it'll throw an exception if you don't handle that. So it will automatically handle that for you, and it'll implement an exception for a case that wasn't handled, which is really cool. So that's a cool one. So it's really super clean, which I think is great. Hell says, yeah, bad if you get paid by line. Yeah, so this is super cool, and I could definitely find myself using this in a bunch of different code throughout, because you can pass anything into there. This is just a bunch of strings on one person, but it could be a bunch of different, things together, which I think is cool. So this is where it's doing, right? Those three, and the switch case maps to those, and then boom, 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 handles all of them. The last one that I like here is that when you're dealing with arrays, we had to write this code, right? Which was like person, bunch of people, and then new person, new person, new person. C#8, we're going to get rid of all that, and we're going to just do implicitly typed new expressions. Boom. We know it's a person. What else could it be? There's a person inside of there, and it's good to go, which is cool. So that's one of my other nice little code cleanup things. Oh, finally, this is one that Matt's been talking about for a while, but default interface members. So for instance, I have an interface that's a console logger. I want to add a new method, then everyone's going to have to update and add a bunch of new things in every single iLogger implementation. Well, now, let's say I want to log an exception. Here, for instance, you can do log error exception toString. And then here, for instance, I would no longer need to log or implement that because this is the default. But if I want to, and I have a new different logger, I can implement all of them, of course, and you just implement it like normal. But I don't have to. I can just let it go because it's the default implementation.
I'm way
Yeah,
up,
and
I feel.
Keith on there asks about, what about a subclass? That's a good one. Someone else asked me about that. And I'm pretty sure that would just work fine because it would just be a person or some subclass of it. And you could just say new subclass. So you'd probably mix and match those together. But I was going to ask Mads if you had different constructors, if it would know which constructor to pick. I'm not sure though, but I'm imagining you can mix and match none and some, right? So some are person, but some might be subclass person. That's it. Now let's talk about mobile, unless you got any questions about the C#8 goodies, but it seems like you get some good stuff there. Thanks for the follow, Johnny. I appreciate that. And get all the sweet updates whenever I stream on Fridays and Saturdays. Appreciate that. Now in the world of mobile, there's a whole bunch of new stuff. We released Xamarin Essentials, our cross-platform awesomeness, which gives you access to 30+ platform APIs. I showed you geolocation earlier, connectivity, device info, app info, a whole bunch of awesome stuff. And now version 1.0 is generally available. So you learn one API for iOS, Android, and Windows, and we handle it automatically under the hood. Boom. It's out there. It's out there. 1.0. I think we're going to do a service release next week, but so far so good. And of course, everything's open source with Xamarin Essentials. Keith asked about, is range enumerable? I think so. I'm not positive. I need to look at that. Jester asks, is there any good reason to upgrade Visual Studio and C# versions? Can't wait until these RTM. Well, you should try out the previews and give us a try, right? In general, give us feedback. That's why you should do it. And you can run them side by side, so why not? Now, Xamarin is our cross-platform, obviously iOS, Android, native application development platform. But we also have Xamarin.Forms, which is our cross-platform UI. And we introduced some brand new awesomeness here, which is a 4.0 preview. Now, this actually introduces a whole bunch of goodies, including some new controls, such as carousel view, collection view, which are going to really help optimize applications. And then also we have some brand new concepts. So Shell is actually a way to simplify your application structure into a single architecture XAML file. And then Visual gives you consistent UI between iOS and Android for a material type design, which is really cool. So I'm going to play this video of the collection view. So here's a collection view, and inside of it, I actually have an empty view. So it works exactly like list view, but it's super optimized. And this is preview 1 that we have coming out. So here I can go ahead and I can see the collection view coming in. If I type in, I search nothing, and I say, oh, there's nothing in my enumerable results, it'll show this default that I have right here in this code, which is super cool. And I think they just bind up the views and the code behind. But you have item templates, everything that you would expect, which is cool. Release date for Forms 4.0. I don't know. We just released the first preview. I don't know. You gotta let us know, which is cool. A bunch of other stuff though. Yeah, you can swap out your list view with collection view. It's recommended. Let me take a look here. So I have it's not. Where's it at? Where's Gastro? This is an open source app that we have from David Ortnow, who's our PM. And it's called Gastropods, which is a good example of shell. So let me open up this solution. And I'm going to... I also modified it. I need to do a pull request to it. Let me go ahead and make Android the startup project here. And let's go ahead and start it up here. So ideally, there you go. Install on VMs. All right, so here's Visual. Here's my Android emulator. This one's running on Hyper-V. So this is an extension. So we worked with the Hyper-V team to extend the Google Android emulators to work on type of Hyper-V. So let's see. It should. Where'd it go? Oh, there it goes. There it is. Boot it away. So I have a bunch of different samples on here. Let's see. It's running. It's pretty good. We continue to work with the Windows team and the Hyper-V team to do some more optimizations, but this is should be running on top of it. Oh, deployment failed. Uh-oh. Tell Visual Studio to stop it. Oh, the emulator is rebooting. It's okay. I think because I rebooted my machine, so there we go. It's okay. I don't actually need it, so. All right, there we go. So here's the Gastropod app. So the Gastropod app enables shell. So I'm going to walk through the application really quick, and then I'm going to walk through some of the code. Because the idea is, how can I give you an architecture of my entire application and allow you to handle that for me? Did I just get something? What just happened? Oh, I got an update on this thing, I guess. That's cool. Okay, so first things first. As we have this nice fly out navigation over here. It's a master detail page. And then I have a few different items in here. So inside of here, I have my navigation. I can come into, let's say, a feed. Oh, yeah, this is a super not optimized version of it, and on my Android emulator. So the Android emulator is a little slow. So we have some new ways of putting in some really nice search bars inside of here, which I really like. I also have some, let's say, tabs. So I have top tabs and bottom tabs. So here's some top tabs, right? If I come in here, I could also have some bottom tabs over here.
I'm way up, I feel blessed.
So here I have this page, I have some bottom tabs over here, I can bop around, I have this home page, which is nice, and we'll talk about this in a bit. Over here, I could also have this thing called Tab Sandwich, which is funny. DK and La Polin, thank you for the follow, I appreciate that. So now we have some other tabs, right? So we have shared, we have some updates. I mean, these swap back and forth between these two different tabs that are here, and I have this like home page that's here everywhere. Now, some interesting things here is this would be kind of complex to do, the navigation, handling everything back and forth. So the shell concept, if I open up the shell, is that it's all right here. So here's shell, and I have a few different sections in here. So the first thing is I have a flyout. So the first thing, as I say, is the title is Gastropods, how my flyout header is going to be. I also have a route, so you can set up routing, URL navigation using shell. So I set up a flyout here. And then what I do is I start to set up these shell items. So the shell items are representative of what you saw in the flyout navigation. So if I didn't have a bunch of them, I just had one, I wouldn't have a flyout navigation. I could disable that. But here I have my home, I have a feed, I have tab sandwich, all these things. So if I look at this and I look at, let's say, top tabs and bottom tabs are a good example. So if I go into top tabs, what I do is I say, well, there's one shell section here, and that shell section has 3 pieces of content: shared, notifications, and photo. So if I zoom in here, I can see that I have a shell item, which is a menu item, a section, which is called activity, And then this content actually is referencing my pages. And these are all lazily loaded. So they're all loaded up on demand, which is cool, which is there. So then on the bottom tabs, and these will share navigation. I can navigate through and it would handle that for me. On the bottom tabs, since these have their own navigation, they're their each own section. So notice I have sections for every single one of these: home, activity, updates, feed, and then there's more because there's overflow. If I tap on more, it's going to bring up this more section for me because I can only have so many tabs inside of there. And then I have one piece of shell content inside of it. Now, it gets a little bit crazy because you can do things like this tab sandwich, which guess what? If I go into here, says I have two sections, so two bottom tabs, and inside of each of those sections are multiple pieces of content, which is giving me multiple tabs up top. I don't have to code anything, I don't have to figure out navigation, I don't have to do anything. It just handles it for me across the board, which is super duper nice across the different platforms. And that's what Shell is trying to do, is say, what is my architecture of my navigation of my application? So how do I put this all together into one nice little thing? And then we can have the gastropods there back and forth, right? And you can have multiple sections. So notice on here, there's a line too that says take photo. So if I go down here, we can notice that this can have menu items. So I can have a bunch of menu items underneath it. So I can say, these are my sections. These are my menu items that I have back and forth, right? So it's pretty cool to kind of break up my application into these segments. Now, at the same time, though, I can run that on iOS and I would get something very similar. So that's Shell at a high level. But I wanted to also talk about visual. So with Xamarin, you always get the ability to represent the native user interface across iOS, Android, Windows, whatever platform you're at. But as you talk more and more to developers, there's certain ones that have clients or they're building apps where they need similar or a streamlined user interface between iOS and Android applications that are on phone. Maybe your internal enterprise, you don't want to document things twice, for instance. So we've implemented something new that we call visual. So inside of here, visual can be applied at a page level or on a per control basis. So here what I'm going to say is, for this page, apply material design to it across iOS and Android. That's all I have to do. This has progress bars, a frame, some labels, some images, entries, and I also here have a button where I say visual default. So I could have everything the default and I can light up one or two controls with material or vice versa. So in Android, what we're going to see here is that I have a nice frame. Let me go ahead and zoom in. I have a nice frame. I have a card view here. I get these nice different views. I think I set the text to white, so that's probably why. Oh, I got a crash. Let me go ahead and do this here. A little crash. Never hurt anybody. Let's see. Could be because I was zoomed in, I'm not sure. All right. So here, for instance, as I tap on this, I get the little location that comes up, comes back down in my code, right? So I get that little thing there, which is pretty cool. Back and forth. I get some underlines in there. And I also note that I get different sort of real action sheet material themes. This is applying the themes that are here. In general, Schmo asks, what's the oldest version of Android that supports Shell? I think KitKat. I think 19, so like all the different devices. Yeah. That's true. So I'm gonna run this on my iPhone simulator. So I'm gonna run this so you can kind of see the comparison between the two. There we go. Because Android's very similar, right? It's just the material design that's there in general. Let's let this sneeze. There we go. I was able to pause it. Perfect. So now I have my iPhone simulator, so you can kind of see this side by side, which I think is cool. And I think it supports progress bar, frame, a few other things today. So we're going to launch the remote iOS simulator. And notice that we get very similar themes and styles across the board. So here we're using the iOS material themes that are here. Helge asks if the iOS simulator is for VS Enterprise only. No. The iOS simulator, remote iOS simulator is for Community Edition. It's been for over a year now. Anyone can get it. It's built in. Anyone can get it. You can do it right now today. So here we get something very similar. My gastropods. Whoop, what did I do? I get the tabs, everything that I expect. You know, tabs up top, which is pretty nice. Oh, this one has a crash. That's good. I forget. Early versions. I forget there's something that I did there. But you get tabs, you get everything you'd expect. And then, yeah, so if we check this out, notice that there's action sheets. So the material, you get the material design, the learn more, the action sheet. Here you get the different values. This thing goes in and out, which I love. Look at how cool that is, which I love. Back and forth. So you're getting the real material design between both of them right here, which is cool. Terrell asks, the new cross-platform project, there's different ones inside of there in 2019. Some of them have the option to do all three and you can pick and choose, but some of them, the default for mobile app is just iOS and Android for mobile, and then there's other ones. So MSG asks about what's the official Microsoft Xamarin.Forms stance on flyout navigation in iOS apps. It's the same that it's always been, I think, for everyone ever, which is if you need to do it, then you can do it. If you want tabs, then do tabs. So I guess it's kind of what you want. Under the hood for visual, it's like custom render or tweaking effects. No, it's a little bit different on the implementation. I think that they use different controls specifically for each. So this one right now today is using, I think Android uses themes and uses the newer Android support libraries, but it handles that kind of more effect base. Where iOS, I think, uses the actual Google material design packages in general. So cool, that's visual, that's there. Across the board, yeah. And these are, of course, the native controls. So this is going to put out real native controls across each of them, just like you would expect with Xamarin, stuff like that. Let's see. There's a whole bunch more. So we had, someone else asked me about custom controls and styles. We added a new property grid. This should work, right? This in here. There we go. Then we have a new property grid that you can go through, and that works with custom controls and Telerik controls, anything like that. So that's all there. No, I don't have any demos for passing parameters through the shells. There is URL navigation. It's documented though, so you can figure that out. I don't have a sample of doing that in this app, but there is URL navigation. You can put like parameters and you can parse it out. So if you're passing things through the URL, it'll parse it back and forth. Jester asks, is the iPhone emulator running on Windows or you need a Mac? No. You need a Mac. I'm connected to a Mac here. So right here, these are my IP addresses and old ones from conferences and things like that. So I'm connected because the simulator is running on my Mac, and we don't screen mirror, but we send screenshots back and forth on there, which is cool. All right, what else we got? I think that's my Xamarin stuff. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, that's my Xamarin stuff. So new work for Android emulator improvements. The Hyper-V ones we're definitely still improving more and more. It's going to base on your machine. I have a Surface Book 2 here. We removed and we improved the workload size. We've shrunk it like really like 70% or something crazy. IntelliCode for XAML, we worked with that team. Huge Android build time improvements. We're really trying to get those down as much as possible. And a bunch of other great improvements. And you'll see more. I'm excited for some of the stuff that we're working on in the future. So definitely be on the lookout there in our blog.xamarin.com for more info. We're going to be rolling out new previews. All right, the last one. Let's get into desktop and server. So some of the cool things, obviously, with .NET is it's a great unified platform, unified together with Alex still works on Xamarin iOS. We always have tweaks and different optimizations for iOS. Vassian asks, yeah, we have some little things here and there that we're doing for iOS with the storyboard designer. We just did a bunch of updates in like 15.7, 15.8. Same with the Android designer. Still working on some stuff there. But yeah, let's get into the .NET stuff. So we released .NET Core 2.2, which had a bunch of great new things. So better web API development, microservices. Shmo, thanks for coming in. Have a great afternoon and a great weekend. And of course, .NET Core, which is your cross-platform server and web workloads, runtime. Whole bunch of other great stuff. So some new things in .NET Core with multi-tier JIT compilation. But EF Core, Entity Framework Core, has a new Cosmos DB provider, reverse engineering of database views, query tagging. ASP.NET Core got brand new updates for Bootstrap 4, Angular 6, HTTP 2 options, health checks, and a brand new Signal R optimizations, including a Java client, which is nice. Volron, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. But let's talk about kind of some future stuff, which is that .NET Core 3.0 is in preview today. This is our first preview of .NET Core, which is super exciting. And on top of that, there's a few things. The .NET Core 3 is really about bringing desktop support to run .NET Core or .NET applications, including WPF and WinForms. So what that means and why that's so important is because it will provide side-by-side support where the framework itself require different installations. With .NET Core, it can be self-contained exes. So you can have, it doesn't matter what version of .NET Core, it's all self-contained inside of there. And then, of course, significant performance improvements across the board. Definitely check this out, and this is what I'm going to talk about today. On top of the fact that we open source WinForms, WPF, and the Windows UI XAML library from UWP. So all of this stuff is built right in. It's open source. In fact, earlier on the stream, if you were on there, I pulled down WinForms, the entire GitHub repo, and you can contribute. A whole bunch of great stuff. Now, .NET Core 2, 2.1, 2.2 all supported web and cloud. But with .NET Core 3, we're adding that desktop and also support for IoT and AI with ML.NET and a bunch of other things, which is really cool. So we're handling and bringing Windows Desktop, IoT, and AI. So where previously it was really focused on web, cloud, and server scenarios, and now we're bringing more workloads into .NET Core 3. So real focus again on desktop, AI, and web app development. Those are the major themes. Now, one thing that's really cool is that regardless if your app is .NET Core-ified or not, you also will have the ability to use like XAML islands and XAML controls embedded into your WinForms or WPF apps. And in fact, that will then bring high DPI fixes to WinForms app and a bunch of other things. So that's kind of a really cool thing that we're kind of blending those worlds together of WinForms and UWP Windows 10 work. But if you decide to bring your Windows desktop apps to .NET Core, what's cool is that you do get that side-by-side support and those self-contained exes. So you get, and also crazy performance improvements, which I'll talk about. I'm not going to go into that slide. It's a little crazy, but let me just go ahead and demo what this means. So we're going to close this. And I have, let me go ahead and close out some of this other stuff too. Get out of here, get out of here. All right, so I have a folder here. It's called Desktop WPF. So I have .NET Core 3 installed, and I'm going to say .NET version. And there we go. So it's version 3.0, whatever the preview is. I'll say .NET new. In .NET New, we'll find all the templates on my machine here. So we'll see things like a global JSON. So I can actually create a global JSON and say everything on my machine for SDK should be run on 2.0, but I'm going to have a special 3.0 folder or something like that. I also have now WPF and WinForms right here, which is cool. So that means I can do .NET New WPF. So this will create a brand new WPF app. I can say .NET Run, which will restore all my NuGet packages, anything that I need, and then run my WPF application that I just created from the command line. There we go. Boom. Which is pretty cool. It says hello to .NET Core. It's running right here. And if I go into my WPF folder, here's my bin, here's my debug, Netcore 3 app. I can run that exe. Here's all any dependencies, PDBs. Boom, good to go. Pretty cool. Now, another thing though is that I can do like code dot, and that'll launch like VS Code. Kind of cool. And that sounds good. I should be able to come into here. So I created a WPF app, and I should be able to add like a breakpoint in here. Where's it at? Where's my breakpoint at? Maybe? Can I add a breakpoint? Where's my... I don't know if I need a new version of it. I thought I could do something in here. Oh, it's doing a bunch of stuff. Debug. But I should be able to... Oh, there we go. So it launched in, and it says I can launch right here. So I actually debug this app. Oh, I thought it was going to work. It worked earlier. Oh, it didn't work. All right, that's okay. But I know they're working on some port to actually like put it out from here, which would be super cool. Oh, I didn't want to do it. That's a shame. Core CLR. That should work. Well, you know, what are you going to do? All right, so you can do .NET New, run it, blah, 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 blah. That's cool. But I figure I'll show you how easy it is to take an existing app and move it over. So if I come back here, I have this game that Mr. Scott Hunter gave me himself. And I have a little helper file over here. Where's it at? Oh, start. I opened the wrong one. Okay. So
I'm way up, I feel blessed.
let us open this solution here and run this application that we have. And Yarpin, thank you for the follow, up to 491, getting real close. Really appreciate that. Glad that a lot of people sticking around on the stream. Seems like you're having fun. Okay, so I have this logic, this game, which is a little card game. It has a bunch of logic. This is in a .NET Standard library. So here I just have some .NET Standard. I have some NuGet packages inside of here. I have a WinForms app and this program here that I can run. So if I go ahead and run this, we'll see the game going on here. Let's see. So we'll run it. See, there we go. Okay. So this is just standard WinForms. So this is like a little matching game where it randomizes where things are at. That was there. It's beautiful, right? It's simply the most beautiful WinForms game ever. This bicycle. Oh, no, chili. Okay. So I want to port this to .NET Core, for instance. So let us open this. I'm going to come into this folder. I'm going to say CD, come in here. I'm going to say .NET New WinForms O, so I can give it a file name. I'm going to call it Matching Game Core. And this will go ahead and create a new folder here and scaffold out a WinForms application for me. Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I don't want any of these things inside of here. So I'm just going to delete this. Okay. So I'm going to delete all these because I just want the CS proj really. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say add existing item and just add this CS proj here. Oops. Oh, sorry. Remove. Add existing project. There we go. Desktop, VS Live, matching game start, core. There we go. Now, if I edit this, we can note that I have some new properties inside of this application. This is a Windows Forms application that's set to true. There's also use WPF. It's a Netcore 3 app, and it's going to output an exe. When I do that, it's going to bring in the Windows Desktop app NuGet and bring in the SDK for .NET Core app preview. So it has that there. Now I'm going to kind of trick this a little bit. So there's this nice little cute trick that you can do, which is, hey, I want to bring in everything from matching game into here. So we can just glob it in. So here I'm going to say, go up a folder and go into matching game and pull in all my files there. So what we see is that now we have my main form, designer form, everything that's up here. So I can actually start to modify this app without having to actually delete or do anything. Now, if I try to compile this, it's going to tell me that I have some errors because the system reflection has an issue here. Okay, so reflection attributes. But that's because in old versions, we have this assembly info, but now all of that information is inside of my CS proj. So what I'm going to do is I can actually use this other thing, which is not generate the assembly information for this app and just use that file. So that way there's no conflict. So then I can go ahead and run that again, which is pretty cool. But I haven't brought in that other .NET standard library. So let me go ahead and add a reference here to my game logic. Set this now as my startup project and just hit run. Now what this should do is bring in all the C# code that I had previously in the WinForms app, and I'll run this application on .NET Core, and then I can move it anywhere. So here's the same exact game, now running though on .NET Core and .NET Framework, which is there. That's a good question. So Jester asks, are there any existing tools? I believe there's a portability analyzer in a tool. Everything is still, they're working on tooling going forward. So I think, be aware that I think there's more happening at that point, coming that way. I should probably be able to find a bike. There we go. Now there's my sweet game, right? Now, you may be saying like, okay, that's cool, but what's the true advantage of, I get it, I can move it around, I don't have to worry about installing all these different things. What are the true advantages? Performance, right? And I think I mentioned performance. And I have a really cool demo of another app that we ported over that shows some of the key improvements that you get when doing this. So if I open up another application here that we ported, it's a WinForms application that was ported. Same thing here from .wpf over. We should see that we're able to get some really cool perf improvements. Now there's some cool things here when Jester asks, does it just work? Yeah, it mostly just works, to be honest with you, from what I see. The cool thing is, since it's a Windows app, you can use the Windows compatibility pack, which adds more APIs to .NET Core since it's a Windows application. And you can get that more backwards compatibility if you're using some of the APIs that aren't there. So this application is pretty straightforward. Over here, I have a .NET Framework version of this application, and it goes off and it scans a directory and analyzes everything inside of it for how big it is on disk, and it goes through it. So this application at the same time also uses a bunch of Telerik controls here. So just a bunch of Telerik controls that were downloaded. And what's cool here is if I run this app, so let's go ahead and run this first without debugging. Let that boot up, and we'll take a look here about the port over to .NET Core. So here I can come in and I can say, oh, I really want to analyze, let's analyze my GitHub folder. Hit run. This is going to run, use some Telerik controls in the UI to visualize it. So this should take, I don't know, 10-ish, 14, 16 seconds. Let's see. It's running. There we go. Took down here, status of about 16 seconds, so 15,000 milliseconds. But we can see I have a bunch of different projects here, Telerik controls where I can tap around, can run it again, get some different information. Now, we took the same exact application and ported it over. We linked in all the files into .NET Core. Now, the difference here is that we referenced all of the same exact Telerik controls from the non.NET Core version. So now if I set that as my startup project, going to run that without debugging. We're going to get the .NET Core version of it. So remember here, this old one took nearly 16 seconds. I'm going to tap on that. I'm going to hit run. And since it's using .NET Core, it's going to get all the great perf advantages, and that took about 3 seconds to scan and analyze everything that's going on here. But I still get all of my Telerik controls that work just out of the box here. Of course, your models may vary, but in general, things mostly should just work out of the box, which is really cool. Keith asked if Visual Studio is going to be ported to .NET Core. I don't think so, as far as I know, but I don't work on that team, so who knows what they're thinking about in the future. I don't know. But I have a slide talking about kind of .NET Framework and its long-term and things. So that's really cool that literally the difference here is pretty substantial between .NET Core and .NET Framework, because we're able to optimize and be really fast and agile with .NET Core and iterate on it pretty quick, which is cool, which is rad. The other thing that the team is working on too is running .NET in the browser with WebAssembly in general. So there's one other cool thing, that matching game that I showed earlier, leveraging Blazor, which is an implementation that can run .NET in the browser with WebAssembly with our .NET interpreter. I took this same exact matching game and we ported it to Blazor, so a client-side web app that runs self-contained over here. So I can set that as the startup project. And what's cool is that we're using Razor components, which is basically CS/HTML and Razor to generate that in the browser, which is cool. So WebAssembly. Can you call? I don't know. You can't do links, so you have to kind of tell me. But Win32 DLLs? I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure. But here's that same matching card game, and notice I'm just kind of writing logic for each loops, all the stuff inside of here. And I'm also bringing in that dependency of the game logic. And I should be able to run this app in .NET Core. Let's see if this is going to work. Oh, yeah, I think I want... Maybe this isn't going to work. I didn't try this actually earlier. So, set a startup project. Oh, I know what I did. Sorry. This isn't supported in Visual Studio 2019 yet. Hey, Glenn, how's it going? How's it going, buddy? Hey, good for you to join. Coming in at the end, sneaking in. So I forgot that I didn't have the Blazor components for 2019. I think it's only a 2017 right now. So let's see, I should be able to set this as my startup. There we go. Let's see. There we go. So this should run all of my CS/HTML, .NET logic, everything directly in the browser. So this does have a server backend to it, so you can still have the server backend. But notice there's nothing in it besides a startup and a program here. And all this does is just say, you know, normal stuff, and then startup server-side Blazor and do the startup, which is running this app. So ideally, this is going to run the Blazor. There we go. That's cool. It should launch the app. Cool. So this is going to load the WebAssembly, which is going to run it all locally over here. It's going to compile and run that same exact matching game. It has some cool things going on here. Same logic, but different UI, because we rebuilt the UI here for the Blazor front end, but it's using all the logic, all the things for matching that came from the Win.Forms application or any other application, which is really cool. So you can run that all here locally, which I think is pretty cool. So lots of cool things happening in the world of .NET to kind of go anywhere. All right. So I mentioned .NET Core 3 Preview 1's out. Get it for VS 2019, VS for Mac, and VS for Code. There are some limitations in general. So some different no visual designers or things like that. There's some workarounds you can read on the release notes. It's some nice links here to get into converting class libraries to .NET Standard, how to use that Windows compatibility pack that I talked about earlier, and analyzers. So you had a lot of questions. The first one was from Jesser, was actually asking about analyzing tools. You can install the .NET Analyzers compatibility pack into your app, and that will analyze your source code for you, which is pretty sweet. The future of the .NET framework. I think this is something we've kind of talked about. There's a huge blog post talking about what's new in .NET Framework 4.8 and where the future of .NET Core is going. But, you know, the issue with .NET Framework, there's billions upon billions of installs of it, right? And it's harder to update and migrate that. So what you're going to see is that it will continue to get updates, but a lot of the rapid development will come into .NET Core, which is probably what you're seeing already. And, you know, obviously Windows and Visual Studio and a lot of these things, like, you know, have key components that run on .NET Framework. And what you can do with the .NET Core, obviously, is do these self-contained scenarios, which is super awesome. So some nice things there. I talked about that. Razor components allows you to run server-side on .NET Core. And it handles things via SignalR, which is cool. And I think that's it. A whole bunch of new things. So these are all the other new things happening in the world of .NET. So not just .NET Core, but new ranges and indices, TLS 1.3, crypto improvements, BCL improvements, tiered compilation, ARM64 for Linux support. We have new serial API ports for IoT, so you can actually run .NET Core on like a Raspberry Pi or other systems. Get access to GPIO, SPIs, I2C APIs through .NET Core and NuGet packages, which is super cool, and a lot more. So head over to the .NET blog to read a lot on that. Of course, you can download Visual Studio, download .NET, and with that, that's me. In general, we did it. We did it, everyone. We crushed it, and I feel pretty good about it because I did that in 2 hours. It's pretty rad. Yeah.
You should also read that I crushed it from 2013 to present.
Pretty cool. So I have all these demos, all these different things somewhere else. I don't know exactly where everything is at. I'm going to try to put it all together. Hopefully, you know, I don't usually do normal like presentations on my stream. It's not really my thing. Usually I do a lot of live coding, but I figured a lot of people asked me from VS Live to come on and do some presentations. Thanks, MSG, for the bits. I appreciate that. This is definitely not easy to put all together. I appreciate all of the subs, the follows. Of course, the nice thing, of course, if you do any of this, all of that charity at the end of the money is going to charity at the end of the year, directly to Girls Who Code, which I'm a big, huge supporter of. So appreciate all of that coming in, as always. I'll be around tomorrow hanging out. We're going to look more at Blazor. Someone did a pull request to my sample application that I was doing. So we're going to pull that down and investigate a little bit. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed the presentation. I don't plan on doing presentations all the time, but I thought it would be fun just to hang out and go through all this stuff because I spent a lot of time putting it all together. It was pretty crazy. Trying to get it all together on these machines. I have so many bits on these machines. It's pretty crazy. And yeah, I'll come to Vancouver at some point. I'll let you know. I love Vancouver. Been there many a times. Get a nice drive up there with my global entry. Get in and out. I can't get in very easy, but I can get out very easy, I guess. Keith, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for all the good questions. I super appreciate it. Now I'm super tired, even though I had a lot of coffee. But yeah, I mostly do code on the channel. I do also do some gaming from time to time, so you'll see. You can, of course, listen to my podcast over there, Merge Conflict and Nintendo Dispatch. Follow me on Twitter. Hit up my website for some cool blog posts. I think that's going to do it for this week. I hope everyone has an amazing weekend. Enjoy the weather while you can if it's nice in your area. But that's going to do it for now.